Welcome back, everybody. It's Monday, August 26th, 2024. Born on this date in 1949, country music band Alabama's late guitarist and fiddle player Jeff Cook of Fort Payne. Today we're going to talk about Methodist lawsuits, more about the man who died 3 decades after being shot, an electric semi-truck, and the state of debates in this country and this state. My name's Ike Morgan, and we're down in Alabama. Hey, after the tithes and offerings, somebody might need to pass a hat around to pay for the lawyers. 44 South Alabama and Florida Panhandle United Methodist Church congregations joined to file a lawsuit last year claiming they were kept from leaving the UMC as the deadline passed for disaffiliating churches to take their property with them. That lawsuit hit a dead end at the Alabama Supreme Court, which ruled that the fight belongs in the church's court rather than the state's courts. The churches had argued that because of the property issues, the case belonged in state court. AL.com's Greg Garrison reports that now there are at least 3 churches that have filed individual lawsuits. Harvest Church in Dothan, Guy's Chapel in Bay Minette, and First Methodist Church of Demopolis all argue that they owned their own property and never signed it over to the UMC. The church in Demopolis was founded way back in 1847 and says it's owned its property throughout its 177 years. Meanwhile, the UMC's judicial court is taking a look at how to handle the congregations that still want to leave. We now know a little more about the Birmingham man who died 3 decades after he was shot, thanks to reporting by AL.com's Carol Robinson. It sounds like it's been a difficult 32 years. Irving Gray was shot in September 1992. One of the shots resulted in a head wound that even required removing some brain tissue. A man was charged with attempted murder back then, but the charges were dismissed. Now, that suspect died in 1997, and upon Gray's death, the charge was upgraded to homicide. The head injury caused Gray to be disabled the rest of his life. His mom said he suffered from seizures and other illnesses. She also said that 6 months ago he told doctors that he didn't want to take his medication anymore. Finally, on August 6, his mom found him unresponsive in the bathtub. His son, Martavius Stewart, was born a month after he was shot. Martavius played ball at school, which took him to the University of South Alabama, where he stuck around and picked up a master's degree. Martavius Stewart, quote, "My dad wasn't able to take care of me, but he recognized me and told me he loved me." Virginia Transportation Corporation unveiled a semi-truck Monday that'll haul vehicles from the Honda plant in Lincoln, reports AL.com's William Thornton. Now, you didn't find this big rig in C.W. McCall's Convoy. It's a Peterbilt 579 EV. That's right, it's all electric, and it's the result of a project that involved Peterbilt, Alabama Power, the Alabama Clean Fuels Coalition, and Virginia Transportation. Now, according to Peterbilt's website, the truck will get you 150 miles on a charge, then require a minimum 3-hour recharge. But this one's not going to go that far. It'll haul vehicles from the Honda plant to a nearby CSX railhead so they can be put on a train and shipped. Hey, we're going to take a really quick ad break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about debates and one that's coming up here in Alabama. Stay with us. When the candidates of Alabama's 2nd Congressional District take the debate stage on October 10th, it'll be something to take note of if you're into political history. Now, I don't mean that in regards to a potential 2nd Alabama district to turn Democratic for the first time in forever, or for 2 black congresspeople to represent Alabama, or for the Republicans to pull an upset, which, considering the courts had the district redrawn to favor Dems would almost seem to signal some sort of invincibility outside Birmingham, at least. What I mean is that we could be witnessing a dying art, a relic. More candidates, especially those with a lead in the polls, aren't fired up about being challenged on the debate stage when they can present their message the way they want it to be presented or tweeted. Vice President Kamala Harris is facing mounting criticism over her avoiding questions during this presidential campaign, but it appears she's on board with the scheduled September 10th ABC debate against challenger and former President Trump on September 10th. Trump, meanwhile, has suggested on social media that he might be a no-show. That could be gamesmanship, but we've seen Trump pass on Republican primary debates while he had a strong lead in the polls. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey took the same path in her first gubernatorial election. President Biden, from a purely strategic perspective, probably should have done the same. Now, 2 years ago, with Katie Britt a front runner over Mo Brooks in a U.S. Senate primary runoff, she passed on a debate that Brooks really wanted to have. That was a rather contentious runoff, and the Britt camp's response was that Brooks wanted to turn the race into a circus, which these days is a growing concern in races for high office. From the jump, presidential debates have always been beauty contests. Famously, it was believed that Nixon did well against Kennedy on radio, while Kennedy owned Nixon on television. Look, I don't go with Nixon on everything, but one way he and I really line up is that I never wear makeup for this podcast. I imagine I would have lost to Kennedy too. Then there are the sound bites. There he goes again, my opponent's youth and inexperience. You're no Jack Kennedy. The 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back. Well, some of those stand up better than others. But all that came before things turned a little bit more vicious. Maybe we can point to that first GOP primary debate in 2016. Trump's criticism of his opponents was more personal and biting, and people responded to that more than they would of a discussion between, say, Ted Cruz's conservatism and Rand Paul's libertarianism. If it becomes more about the show and perhaps some humiliation, the debate stage becomes at times more entertaining, but a whole lot riskier. Now, if we're seeing a demise of debate, we all obviously lose out, not just on the beauty contest and the one-liners, but to see the candidates go relatively unscripted, interact with other adults, and, well, perform under pressure. Folks, the President of the United States recently lost his job because of a debate performance. Now, that's world trajectory changing stuff right there. So with all that in mind, we can fully support seeing a debate between Alabama District 2 congressional candidates Shomari Figures and Caroline Dobson, Democrat and Republican respectively, on October the 10th. It'll be carried on AL.com and the AL.com Facebook and YouTube channels. And some of it, maybe highlights, maybe excerpts, or all of it, will make its way to Down in Alabama podcast episodes. Thank y'all so much for listening. We're going to be here again tomorrow. Until then, y'all come by anytime you want to and see what we're doing on the internet at AL.com.